Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Guilt Free Podcast, a place where you can come and get your life together guilt free. So, I am back after almost 2 weeks of being very sick with a horrible flu. And thankfully, I had some, content and stuff pre-recorded, which was a lifesaver. But it did inspire today's episode to talk a little bit about sick days and just taking care of yourself. So yeah, I hope I've got an itch. It's really annoying. Um, I hope you had a lovely long bank holiday weekend. If you were in the UK, if you weren't in the UK, we were celebrating Easter bank holiday weekend. So we've had a very long weekend. It's been very nice. And yeah, it's exciting to sort of jump back into work and into sort of normality after a long time away, I suppose. For me myself, I've had a lovely weekend. It's been a lot of family and that sort of fun family time, I suppose. For some reason, Easter weekend is usually a time where all of the family come back together. This is like more so on my mum's side. Now, we aren't religious, we don't celebrate any sort of like the religious aspects of Easter, but I think because it's the first time coming back together after Christmas time, that's why we usually kind of go so hard with it. And ever since I was a kid, I'm the oldest grandchild on my mum's side of the family. And ever since I was a kid, what we've always done is build what we call an Easter hut. And this is built on my grandparents' farm, and it's down what we call the Glen. And it's like just basically like a very small, in between like a river and a spring, I suppose. Like it's quite small, like a little bit of water flowing through a bit of a foresty area, and we build an Easter hut in there. And every year that the Easter hut has gotten more and more advanced. This year we had quite a sophisticated roof, but it's usually built out of old pallets and old pieces of wood and tarp and things like this. And we sit in this like Easter hut. We have a campfire. Usually we cook our food throughout the day on this. Usually it's things like making boiled eggs, or we make like baked potatoes, I suppose. In the fire, we wrap them up in tin foil and we put them in the hot coals. Or we'll cook things like sausages and things like that over the open fire. So it's always a very family orientated, messy kind of day. Do you know, the kids love, like my younger cousins, they love going and playing in the glen. And we would always, when we were smaller, now it's more for like the younger cousins now, but what we would often do is we would take like the old animal feed bags, the old coal bags, and we would slide down the glen like a water slide basically. And yeah, it was really fun. It's always been a very fun time. Lots of chocolate, lots of fun, a late night, and we've thankfully had such a beautiful weekend weather-wise. It's been lovely, clear blue skies, nice and warm. Well, nice and mild. I'll not say warm. It's a bit presumptuous for Ireland, but yeah. Thankfully, by Friday, I was feeling like myself after having such a horrible flu that has just landed me. It just had me in my bed actually for a lot of it. I had very low energy. I was just feeling awful, and I was having a lot of sinus problems and like ear problems. It was horrible, but thankfully I am over the best of it now. Today I just feel a little bit fragile, a little bit tired and a little bit fragile after a long, energetic, little bit boozy weekend. So that's where we're at today. I also, rather annoyingly, on Saturday had used a skincare product. I was having a bit of a pamper session because I was feeling like myself again after being sick. Wanted to have like a nice pamper session, and I annoyingly used a product that always breaks me out. Like I'm allergic to it, like 100% allergic to it. I've only ever used it twice before. Um, One time I did have an allergic reaction to it. The second time I didn't leave it on very long and I managed to escape the allergic reaction. But this time I thought I would chance my arm. I thought maybe the first time was a one off, thought I would chance my arm and try it again. And unfortunately, no. It was a very mild allergic reaction. I do have eczema, and I do have it on my face, and it can be quite. Usually, it's fine 90% of the time. So I was a little bit apprehensive to come on and make a video podcast today because this is something I've been struggling with for like the last couple of days. But thankfully, it's been the reaction hasn't been so severe. Usually my eyes swell shut and my skin like really breaks out like quite rashy and everything like this. But thankfully I just have quite a lot of dry skin and my eyes are a little bit they were a little bit swollen yesterday, but they're fine today. So hopefully I'm like getting past it now and I'm just healing. So I have minimal makeup, minimal everything just to try and like heal everything and just kind of get over that. So it's very frustrating. It is quite a difficult thing to kind of cope with whenever I do have like these little eczema flare ups on my face because I do quite a public job putting stuff out online. And I work with my clients and things all over like video call and things like this, so it can be a little bit difficult whenever I am having like a flare up and I can't use like my normal makeup and my normal skincare and things like this, so it can kind of like play on my mind a little bit. But we're persevering, and it's just a redirection, and that's what we're going with. And it has actually led to some inspiration for today's podcast. Thank goodness, because I was racking my head. I was struggling with a lot of brain fog with being ill. And I was really struggling to kind of like not come up with ideas, but like formulate those ideas into like a podcast episode. So thankfully I'm feeling okay to kind of do this. So yeah, I'm going to keep it short and sweet today. Actually, I don't have an awful lot of energy, and I would like to get this wrapped up and edited and uploaded and all that good stuff, so that I can have a nice evening and just enjoy the ends of my long bank holiday weekend. If you've got up to anything interesting, I would absolutely love to hear, and you're more than welcome to send me a DM on Instagram, and especially, bonus points if you've got some funny photos or videos or embarrassing things that happened during the weekend. I do know at one point my mum and my uncle was dancing to Beyonce's song, the kind of country one. I can't remember the name of it. So I do know that video is floating around somewhere on the internet. We'll choose to ignore that one. But anyway, I think we will jump into today's topic, and that is around sick days and taking care of yourself and incorporating self-care into those sick days. This is something that I had struggled with previously. Usually, whenever I would get sick, I would feel a lot of guilt. I wouldn't want to take the time off of work. I wouldn't want to take the time to recuperate, but also I didn't want to go out and get other people sick. And it's funny because I was hoping this would be something that would change sort of like post lockdown era. During that kind of lockdown time, there was a lot of focus about like people talking about how, the importance of recuperating when you are sick, and also minimizing the infection, like spreading the infection and things like this, or spreading your sickness or whatever. And I was really hoping this would be something that, having that kind of consciousness and also that kind of consideration towards people around you, I was hoping that would kind of carry on post lockdown, but unfortunately, I don't think that's been the case. Sort of pre-lockdown, I worked in an office and then I moved working from home. And one thing that I really struggled with was long shifts in confined spaces of our office, and people would be getting sick all the time. It was worse if you were in an area with people who had children, mainly because children pick up everything. You know, if they're at school or play school or whatever, they're always getting sick. And then that parent's always getting sick. And then that parent's bringing that into the office. And it's difficult because, it's hard to take that time off of work, and for some places they don't pay you if you're taking time off sick. Some places they might, whereas some places may not have, you have a limited number of sick days and things like this. So it's a complicated thing, and it's a difficult thing because it's not quite uniform. So I always found it very frustrating when I would often get sick because it was just, that was the environment. There was never a time where no one was ill. Like, always somebody had some sort of sniffles or something. And I would feel bad, especially because I worked in a small team. So if I was missing, that it was felt by the team picking up the slack. And so I would often feel guilty, and it was something that I've really struggled with. So I've come a long way to kind of changing that and kind of improving my relationship with needing to take that time, whether it's a physical illness or whether it's something, more mental that needs that time to recuperate and to kind of heal and overcome. It's still, it's still something that I need to advocate for and something that I need to take care of myself. So that kind of leads me into like the first, the sort of first point I want to make on today's episode, and that is prioritizing your mental health when you're sick. So I'm talking about like when you're like physically unwell, if you've got a cold, a flu, whatever, maybe you've broken something or injured something and you're taking that time away. And I think it's really important to prioritize your mental health in the sense that you are looking at your self-talk, how you're treating yourself for taking time off, what's your attitude towards taking time off or to being sick, and just overall focusing on not beating yourself up. You want to just rest, recuperate. You don't have to be productive. You don't have to be doing all of the things. Whatever you need to just get through that day and just take care of yourself, that's fine. You don't need to be thinking, oh, well, I'm off work and I'm at home. I may as well tidy. I may as well do the laundry. I may as well hoover. No, babes, go put your feet up, go relax, go and rest, go and recuperate. I do often recommend something I do talk about like in other episodes and often on my Instagram about having different routines or support, not really a support system, well, kind of a support system set up so that you can function as best you can when you're unwell. And that might be things like having some easy to make meals. So you're not cooking. Maybe it's things like heating up some soups. Maybe you've got some frozen meals in your freezer, whatever. Or you've got somebody that you can call to bring you, medicine or food or whatever it is that you need. Having something in place, it's going to alleviate that pressure and allow you to just rest and allow you to recuperate. Because you know what? It's not your fault. It's not your fault you got on well. It happens. It's life. It's part of being a human and being surrounded by all of these wonderful little bugs and illnesses and whatnot. It's going to happen. And the best thing you can do is focus on taking care of yourself and getting better as quickly as you can. And that's really, really important. So focusing on that self-talk and focusing on that mindset that you have, making sure that you're being gentle with yourself and that you're taking care of yourself. That kind of leads me nicely into my next point. It kind of comes around that self-compassion, and I really, really recommend that you do what you can to feel comfortable and to feel safe and to just rest. And quite often what that might look like is, maybe it's making like that little nest on your sofa, bringing your duvet down, climbing in, popping Netflix on, if that's something you feel up to doing. If you're kind of a little bit more horizontal in bed, that's, fine as well. But it's time to just indulge in that comfort, cozy PJs, keeping the home warm, hot water bottles, lots of blankets, lots of pillows, and just rest and just relax and do what you kind of can to really nurture yourself ultimately. Steer clear of anything that is like high stress, like don't be sitting watching scary movies or like listening to those crime, thriller, murder, mystery podcasts. Your body's under a lot of stress already, and you don't need to be adding to that. And I know you might be thinking, oh, but a scary movie isn't stressful, it's just entertaining. Your body doesn't know that. It still thinks that it's under attack. This movie's giving it all the signals to raise your heart and to feel that stress. So let's not do that. Let's just be comforting and compassionate towards ourselves. And that is ultimately just loads of cozy blankets, plenty of hot teas, and just positive self-talk, just comforting self-talk. If you feel that, if you hear that negative thought kind of creeping up, pause, take a minute, reframe it, talk to yourself a little bit different. I know it sounds really crazy. I know it does. It sounds like, Holly, what do you mean talk to myself? But I mean this in like the most sane way possible. If it kind of bubbles up and you're like, oh God, I've been lying on this sofa now for a couple of hours, I should really get up and do something. No, I've been lying here because I've needed to rest. I've had a snooze, I've had a cup of tea, I'm just resting. And it's fine. I'm feeling very chill right now, actually. It's kind of hard to like keep my eyes open and stay focused. But we're gonna push on, suffer on, push on. Yeah. And also it would be really great to just focus on nourishing. I had said about nurturing, we're gonna also focus on nourishing. Oh, now I'm confusing myself. I said nurture, now we're going to nourish. This is opting for some sort of healthier alternatives. Like I had said earlier about having that little supply, that emergency supply for if you're feeling sick. It's great to choose some options that are healthier, and that can also look like processed foods, but like the healthier versions of processed foods. That's kind of what you want to aim for here. So, maybe that's choosing like a nice vegetable or chicken and vegetable soup, canned, or if you can get out and get some fresh soup, like that's fine, but don't feel like you have to go and make some. If you make some and freeze it, bonus points again. But at the end of the day, it's about what you can do. Likewise goes for things like ready meals. There are some really great healthier processed ready meals that you can just easily keep in your freezer and whip them out for days whenever you're just not feeling great. It's important to just keep taking care of yourself and just opting for those things like, hot teas or juices. Ultimately, water is going to be the best thing, but just doing what you can, swapping out those high caffeine drinks, swapping out those energy drinks, those high sugar drinks, and just give your body a chance to fight the illness rather than try and process something that is heavily caffeinated and sugary and whatever. Like we really don't need that. It's also really good to look at some more like homemade recipes. For me personally, I love making some honey and ginger and lemon tea. It's always, whenever I'm sick, it's like my favorite thing. I find it settles my stomach, it soothes my throat, and I just it feels like a little cup of health, like if I was like in a video game, this would be like my health potion. And it's really it's chopped up fresh ginger, it's some squeezed lemon, like fresh lemon, and a teaspoon or two of some honey into some hot water. That is it. And it is the most revitalizing thing when you're feeling poorly. So have a little experiment, with some things that make you feel good. It might even be like things that would be like your mom or your grandparent or somebody, like a caregiver, had done for you as a child. how can you kind of replicate that and bring yourself that little bit of comfort during your sick period? It's just find those fun things that you can kind of do. But ultimately, you want to just sort of take that time, recognize that it's okay to be unwell, it's okay to rest, it's fine, and just sort of do what you can to take care of yourself. It's really good to think about it before you get sick, because it is inevitable. Like, I don't care what people say, it's going to happen. So definitely do it while you are in good spirits, in good form, and in good energy. Have a think about what you would do when you're sick that would bring you that kind of comfort. Make sure you've got things like any medication you might need, or any sort of supplies that you might need, and just keep them, maybe in a little box somewhere if you can. Keep those and keep them on standby. It's also very helpful to know what to do if your illness progresses. And what I mean is that, for a lot of us, if you're living alone, or maybe you're living away from home, or if you're living somewhere new that you're unfamiliar with, it's really good to know what is the process or what's the protocol for if that sickness progresses. At what point should you go and speak to a pharmacist, or should you speak to a doctor, or should you go to hospital? Fingers crossed it never happens, but it is very good. You don't want to suffer in silence. So it's very good to know what are the kind of points here that you need to kind of think about, sort of throughout your sickness. If you're not showing signs of improving, when should you reach out for professional medical help? So, I think I'm going to wrap that up for today. And I think I'm going to go and put my feet up and I'm slowly getting my energy levels back, which is nice. This week I'm getting back into my client calls and just like my normal content and stuff again, which I'm very excited about. If you would like to be on my mailing list, usually I email out some like bonus snippets from these podcast episodes. So if you'd like to join that mailing list, it goes out once a week. You can do it from the link in the show notes of today's episode. When you sign up to the mailing list, you actually get a free copy of my ebook, The 90-Day Goal, which is actually worth about £27. And I was selling it previously, but you know what? It's too good. It's too good to get. I have to get that information out there. It is fantastic if you would love to start getting serious about your goals and actually seeing results, especially if you're somebody who had made like New Year's resolutions and things and it's not really happening. Put it this way, if you had followed the ebook at the start of this year, at the start of January, you would have reached your goal by now. Like today would have been, the start of your new 90-day goals. Do you know, that kind of way? So yeah, it's exciting. And I recommend you join. You get the snippets and the emails, and you also get a free ebook. Like, what's better than that? But yeah, as usual, my DMs on Instagram are always open if you want to have a chat, if you want to send me a funny GIF. Love a good GIF. And you can find me on Instagram, which is guiltfree_coaching, GYLTFREE_coaching. And that's it for today's episode. I will speak to you next week.